To understand the Silk Road, you need to understand Ross Ulbricht. And Ross wasn't your typical criminal mastermind. Born in Austin, Texas in 1984, Ross was the kid every parent dreams of having. He was an Eagle Scout who helped elderly neighbors with their groceries. He graduated from Westlake High School and went on to Penn State, where he earned a degree in physics. But he didn't stop there. Ross went on to earn a master's degree in materials science and engineering from Penn State, studying crystallography and writing a thesis on thin film growth. This guy could have been working at NASA, designing semiconductors at Intel, or developing new materials at SpaceX. He had the kind of mind that could have contributed to legitimate scientific breakthroughs. Instead, he became obsessed with something else entirely: libertarian economics and the idea of radical freedom. By 2010, Ross had discovered the works of Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard, Austrian economists who believed in completely free markets with zero government intervention. He read everything he could find about libertarianism, anarcho-capitalism, and the philosophy that individuals should have absolute sovereignty over their own lives. He became convinced that the government had no right, none whatsoever, to tell people what they could put in their own bodies. And in 2009, something revolutionary had just been invented that would make his vision possible: Bitcoin, a digital currency that no government could control, track, or shut down. Ross saw an opportunity that nobody else had fully grasped yet. What if you could create a marketplace that existed beyond the reach of any government? A place where the only rules were the ones enforced by the community itself? A true free market in its purest form? In early 2011, Ross started coding in his apartment in Austin. He taught himself web development, learned how to use the Tor network, the encrypted, anonymous internet known as the dark web, and began building what would become the most notorious website in internet history. He built his marketplace on hidden services, where users could browse completely anonymously using special software. Every transaction would be conducted in Bitcoin, which was nearly impossible to trace back to real identities, and sellers could list absolutely anything they wanted. No restrictions, no government telling them what was legal or illegal, just pure, unregulated capitalism. The site went live in January 2011. He called it Silk Road, named after the ancient trade route that connected east and west, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture across vast distances. And to protect his identity from law enforcement, he adopted a pseudonym from his favorite movie, The Princess Bride. He became Dread Pirate Roberts, a name that in the film is passed from one person to another so that no one ever knows who really holds the title. It was perfect operational security. Even if someone claimed to know who Dread Pirate Roberts was, the legend itself created plausible deniability. Within the first few weeks, the site had dozens of listings. Within months, there were hundreds, and the vast majority of them were drugs: marijuana, cocaine, MDMA, LSD, mushrooms, prescription pills, research chemicals, and substances most people had never even heard of. The Silk Road wasn't just successful, it absolutely exploded in ways that shocked even Ross himself. By late 2012, the marketplace was processing over $1 million in sales every single month, and the numbers kept climbing. This wasn't some small-time operation anymore. This was a full-scale digital drug empire. Thousands of sellers from around the world listed their products. Tens of thousands of buyers browsed the selection like they were shopping on Amazon. You could buy high-quality marijuana from California growers, MDMA from Dutch chemists, LSD from underground laboratories, cocaine from South American sources, and prescription medications from corrupt pharmacies. If you wanted it, Silk Road probably had it, often with multiple vendors competing on price and quality. But here's what made the Silk Road fundamentally different from every other drug marketplace in history. Ross had built it like a legitimate e-commerce platform with all the features you'd expect from a professional online retailer. Sellers had detailed profiles with ratings and reviews from verified buyers. Every transaction was rated on a 5-star scale with written feedback. If you received a bad product or got scammed, you could open a dispute and have it mediated by site administrators. There was actual customer service. Vendors who scammed people got banned. High-quality sellers with good reviews could charge premium prices because buyers trusted them. It was essentially eBay for illegal substances, and it actually worked better than many legitimate marketplaces. The rating system meant that sellers had an incentive to provide good products and good service because their reputation was everything. Buyers could make informed decisions based on hundreds of reviews, instead of just trusting some random dealer on a street corner. And because everything was done through the mail using regular postal services, there was no face-to-face interaction, which meant dramatically less violence. Ross genuinely believed he was doing something morally good for the world. In his mind, he wasn't facilitating drug addiction. He was reducing violence and empowering individuals. He wrote long posts on the Silk Road forums about economic freedom, the non-aggression principle, and how the war on drugs had caused far more harm than drugs themselves ever could. He argued that Silk Road eliminated the violence inherent in black markets. There were no turf wars, no dealers shooting each other over corners, no cartels beheading rivals. Just peaceful, voluntary transactions between consenting adults who were exercising their natural rights as human beings. He saw himself as a revolutionary, a digital Robin Hood fighting against an unjust system. He posted manifestos about how Silk Road was going to change the world by proving that free markets could regulate themselves better than any government ever could. And in many ways, he was right about the violence reduction. There were no shootouts over Silk Road territory. But, of course, the government saw things very differently. By mid-2011, Senator Chuck Schumer of New York held a dramatic press conference calling Silk Road the most brazen attempt to peddle drugs online that we have ever seen, and demanding that it be shut down immediately. The DEA opened an investigation, the FBI got involved, Homeland Security started looking into it. Suddenly, Ross had the full weight of the United States federal government trying to hunt him down. But they hit a massive wall. Dread Pirate Roberts was a complete ghost. Every transaction on the site was encrypted and routed through Tor, making it nearly impossible to trace. Ross never revealed personal information, never made phone calls that could be intercepted, never met anyone in person. He communicated only through encrypted messages. The FBI couldn't find him, couldn't identify him, couldn't even figure out what country he was operating from. Meanwhile, as the feds spun their wheels trying to find him, Ross was getting incredibly wealthy. Silk Road took a commission on every single sale made through the platform, usually around 10%, and by 2013, that commission had added up to an absolutely staggering amount. Ross had accumulated approximately 144,000 Bitcoin in various wallets associated with the site. At the exchange rates in 2013, that was worth about $28 million. Today, if he still had access to those Bitcoin, they'd be worth well over $6 billion. He had become one of the richest criminals in the world, and he was only 28 years old.